Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Virtual Railroader Academy. I am Professor Casey.
And I'm Professor Dick, and we're happy to have you along for today's ride on the Bridgeton and Saco River
Oh, God,
in open
such.
rails.
This is absolutely a throwback to my youth playing my first train game. But before we dive into that, we have someone special with us tonight.
We do.
We
And who might
have
that be?
special guest lecturer, Professor Hyce.
Well, hey everybody. I'm gonna apologize in advance. I'm gonna be running the Dayquil Express, I think, and I'm still recovering from sickness over here, and it got worse today. So it's fine. We'll be fine.
Oh, my poor
I,
man. I thought you were over the hump with that.
I thought I was too, and I went to work yesterday and was helping out at the museum, felt fine, and then I got home and then just the bottom fell out, and so yeah.
Ouch. Okay, well, we will do as much talking as possible.
Dayquil
on
is
your
not
behalf.
it doesn't violate Rule G, right? It's fine,
no,
right?
I've
Right?
totally done that before. No, I haven't.
Is ru-
That's.
is Rule G even a thing in this era of railroading?
You know, it probably is. I mean, it
I
was in
mean,
the old Rio Grande timetables, so.
but did they listen to it?
Well, that's details.
Yeah, alright. I'm over here trying to remember how to play this game, and I've gotten my train moving. Which is
I'm sitting at the back end of the platform at whichever end of the railroad I'm at. There's standard gauge over here, and it's scary looking.
That would be Bridgeton Junction. Yeah, standard gauge has a whole new meaning when you are.
When you're 2-foot gauge, like I've seen 3-foot to standard pretty commonly, but I'm less than half of that, so it's that's a whole thing.
Mm-hmm. Yes, especially if you see one of those mainline trains come in, and some of the activities in this, they do appear on occasion when you're picking up or dropping off passengers at the junction.
Oh, I've seen that before when I was doing tech tests with this. It's a little terrifying. Just like
Yes,
that's big. That's very big.
yeah, 6777 production says standard gauge is scary. Yes, it's scary for all of us.
Is that my
And
independent?
on
That's
the
my independent brake. Okay.
yes, your independent would be the bracket keys, if I.
Yeah, brackets and then the
Brackets. All right.
apostrophe and semicolons. Your automatic.
How do I throw a switch? Or wait, no. This is.
I think it's G for one ahead of you and Shift G for one behind you. If there's not a click interface.
It buzzed at me and said use manual control. Okay.
Yep. So that's what you do. Press Control M.
Control M. Okay.
Um. So, how are you making out there, Mark? Do you want some clearance of some kind?
I've pulled up. I was spawned pretty far end of track, so I'm pulling into the platform right now on my end.
Okay.
And then
Yeah.
I don't know if there's passengers that actually load or if I just simulate.
Oh, I figured. I had to hit F10 and it brings up the whole station control thing, and it tells you like where your next station is, how long you're there for. I remembered that part.
Yeah. You got it.
Perhaps we should probably explain a little bit what we're doing, Nick, since this is the MSTS world is very much your purview.
So we decided, in the spirit of demonstrating that all of the Sims have their educational moments and ways of highlighting real railroading, to go to Open Rails, which, if you're not familiar with Open Rails, it is the open source successor to Microsoft Train Simulator. It is designed to be fully backwards compatible with MSTS, but it also introduces new functionality like 3D cabs, improved performance, widescreen enhancements, a number of benefits. And so we are taking advantage of those benefits with the Bridgeton and Saco River, which is an add-on that was released a couple of years ago that is specifically designed for open rails. Oh, working turntables, that's another thing. So yes, a lot of benefits to this. All three of us have very nostalgic feelings towards Microsoft Train Simulator. here, and assuming that quite a few of you probably do as well. So we're using MSTS as a way of exploring our relationship with train sims and how they relate to our real world experiences with railroading.
I've got one comment here that I really want to point out. Apparently, my engine, Bridgeton and Saco River number 5, was the worst riding engine, and it set the 2-foot gauge speed record at 56 miles an hour? I'm sorry, what? What? That. What? I can't imagine going that fast in something like this.
No,
Yeah,
but
these drivers are a little small for that.
Yeah. Okay, so apparently I need to knock off handbrakes on my cars and tie up air hoses. How
yes.
do you do that?
Um, so to do that, you go to the F9 menu.
Okay, F9. Oh, probably. Okay.
And you'll see the train operations window boot up.
Okay. Is there like
So
a fast button?
no.
Okay.
Shift click, and the excuse me, I burped at the wrong time. Open, close, different angle cocks. So you'll have to click on the car and open the front, and then click on the locomotive and open the rear. So close. So that must have been open. So yeah, you want to. So you have the car selected. So you want both of them open, and then the steam locomotive just the rear. And then brake hose, toggle brake hose connection as well. Click that. I think it does the piece of equipment ahead. Okay. So then.
Okay, I think I got it. Let's see if
Yep.
I can move. Oh wait, handbrakes. Forgot about handbrakes. That's a thing. So these are all the different things that Open Rails brings to the game.
I was gonna say it's a lot more than MSTS originally had.
Yeah, seriously.
Yes, so MSTS, you'd couple on a car and you'd be set to go. There was no, there were handbrakes, but only if you were coupled to the car, and you did not have to worry about your air hoses. And now you do. Bridgeton 78 says the number 5 was also the first 244T to be used on the main 2-footers, along with being the last locomotive constructed by the Portland Company of Maine. And...
Oh, good heavens. A giant train just pulled in next to me.
Oh, good. You had the giant train experience.
Yes. It's just a 280. It's just an itty-bitty Maine Central 280, but it is scary and large.
Alright, did I get this right? Hey, look at that, my train's free rolling.
And then, hey pilot, hi Squiggy. Catapult came. Oh, where is she outside frame? So that's more crazy. No, number 5 is the one that Casey's driving here. That is a.
That is an inside frame engine.
There were some on the Sandy River and Rangeley Lakes that were outside frame. Baldwin built Pender engines. Flying Scotsman fan, I'm doing good. How about yourself? We're mostly doing good. We're making sure Mark doesn't lose his voice over the course of the next couple of hours.
It's fine. Speaking of, train number 3 requesting to depart Bridgeton Junction, over.
Roger that. Hang on 1 second. Okay, 3, gonna clear you up to Ingalls Road on the main.
Number 3, clear to Ingalls Road on the main. Here we go.
Yeah, first meet is gonna be with Inspection Train 4. Okay? Me. And now I'm going back to the other window. So yes. So, but a good place as any to start off with is what our first experiences with train simming were. What was the first sim, and what was the first early memories of what you did there. How about you, Mark?
I'm trying to think about it. because I remember my first video game was Roller Coaster Tycoon, and I distinctly remember making a theme park that was entirely miniature railroads, and I was completely unfathomable to my 6-year-old self that nobody would want to go to this theme park, and I failed the scenario by only having trains in it because that's the park that I want to go to. Come on, like what the heck?
Yeah.
But I think MSTS would have been my first sim, and I got it pretty early. Like I think it came out in 2000 or 2001, and I know I had it like sometime in 2001. And I remember being able to show it to my granddad, who's the guy who invented PBL and PFM sound and did all these things, and he had previously made like CAD models of Lionel locomotives and gotten them to like run and animate in CAD, and he was all excited about that. And so he saw Microsoft Train Simulator and lost his mind. I remember him like totally not even comprehending the fact that a computer could do this, and thought it was amazing and wanted to show everybody. So I'd get to go over and go to Grandpa's place, and anytime he had a friend over or whatever, it's just like, look at the trains on the computer. It was pretty funny. I played a lot of the BNSF map, and then I spent a lot of time wrecking trains on the Orient Express map, because if you spawn in at the top of the map, I mean, you can get going pretty spicy fast going downhill, and
God, yeah.
that's
Yeah.
about all you wanted to do when you were 6. So apparently nothing's changed.
Yeah, the Settle in Carlisle was my race down the mountain with a chemical train and see what you could do kind of map. And then how about you, Casey?
Well, I forgot about my first train game until Mark brought up Roller Coaster Tycoon. Mine was Railroad Tycoon 2, quickly moving into Tycoon 3. I wanted MSTS and got Trains with a Z 2006 for Christmas instead. So that was my first. And then I think I bought myself MSTS shortly after with my Christmas money. And I remember, oh God, I don't remember the Train Z route, but it was one I ran to death. It's like a model railroad. It was a circle, 2 circles of track at the bottom, and like a route that like circled and climbed all the way up to the top. And I played the crap out of that. And then MSTS, and it was all Settling Carlisle and the Flying Scotsman and the BNSF route until I discovered TrainSim.com.
Yes, the magical land of trainsim.com. Somebody's pointing out, could you turn down the game audio a bit?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Ibon Lu says, I think their first game was... where did this comment go?
Hopefully that's
Talking
better.
about Lego, there's Lionel Traintown and Lego Loco.
Oh my god.
Oh my
which-
god!
The
yeah.
nostalgia that just hit right now.
Both
Oh
of those
crap!
were definitely parts of my childhood. Yes, those were definitely parts of my childhood, especially the Lego Loco game, where I only wish it had missions, because it was super cute. But once you started building worlds, it's like, okay, that's kind of it. For me, I have a very clear memory of going to Circuit City with my dad in 2001 and getting a boxed copy of MSTS. And although I'd seen it previously on an uncle's laptop, but that was the first time I got it. Then went to a train show in 2003, got Trains Ultimate, UTC Ultimate Trains Edition, or I forgot what UTC stands for. It's been that long. And stuck with Train Z till about 2006. Then what got me back into MSTS, which is kind of fitting to talk about, sort of in the nature of what we've got with this. Here is the London and Port Stanley by Wayne Campbell for MSTS, because up to that point it was run fast, crash, smash, all that good stuff. And there was some of that with London Port Stanley, but I came to really appreciate how well done it was, and that got me asking questions about, well, what is the story behind this interurban, and what's the real history behind it, and how did it run, and
Okay to proceed.
that took me on a whole odyssey that I still find myself on of train sims educating me about the real thing.
Briefly, what am I? I'm number 5?
Mm-hmm.
Number 5, ready to depart. Harrison.
All right, copy 5. I'm gonna go ahead and clear you up to
Oh.
Bridgeton on the main, and you're clear to use the Y for your turnaround move
Copy that.
into
Clear
the
to
station.
Bridgeton on the Y for my turnaround move onto the station.
You got it.
I'd forgotten about the London and Port Stanley completely until you brought it. Like, there's so many routes that, like, prepping for this I rediscovered, and so much about my childhood that I rediscovered prepping for this. It was a little weird, actually, to just, like, take a deep dive down memory lane and into, like, virtual memory boxes, so to speak, of, like, where I was when, like, oh god, what was it? Probably, I don't even know how old I was in 2006, but, like, kind of no one else around me who was into trains, and the odd one out at school, and, like, finding all of this and discovering all of this and seeing the world that was, like, the train world that was outside of my life, and being able to, like, rediscover all of that has been really nice, but also incredibly weird.
Yeah, it's amazing how many things that you experience in childhood, and then you go on to have other experiences, and then you go back to that old thing. You're like, oh yes, now I remember. I
Mm-hmm.
remember the days. I was there 3,000 years ago, Gandalf.
I was there.
I was there when the lore was written.
Yes.
I was there watching at the rail yard drops.
Oh yes. Yeah. So yeah, the elephant in the room about the rail yard.
We had to get that out of the way early.
A very good elephant. So yeah, and continuing the narrative off of the London and Port Stanley. So that was 2006, early 2006. I discovered trainsim.com like you had. I was becoming aware of payware and all of these other possibilities. And it struck me that because this was such a niche thing, that there weren't a lot of reviews out there, especially not video reviews of this content. And at the same time, I was also starting to find my voice as a filmmaker. Up to that point, I'd been doing music videos where I filmed the I didn't have a robust computer, so I pointed a tape camera at the screen and taped train simming, and then captured it back into the computer and edited it into music videos. Yes, you can still see them on my YouTube channel, Nick Ozerak. If you really want to, you could go all the way back and you could find them. And that was a good way to kind of get started, but eventually I was able to work capture software. So it was taking this idea of music videos and this style that I was trying to explore and develop, and combine that with train simming, and combine that with a product review, and At the Rail Yard was born out of that. And is something that, even though I do it far less frequently than I did from between 2008 and 2015, I enjoy revisiting it every few years or so.
Side note, it feels like the brakes are actually brakes in this versus what I remember.
Brakes are very strange, I have noticed, because I mean, full disclosure back here, professional steam engineer and everything. I saw the station coming up, slowed down to a crawl of 4 miles an hour, and then took like 5 minutes to get to the station. Got into the station, stopped short, blocked the crossing, and all the Amish people are mad. So I tried to pull up ahead again, and then I did about 100 mile an hour in place for about 20 seconds before I realized that you had to double press the throttle to shut it off. And yeah, we're now at Rankin's Mill with a bit of fanfare on the way in. It's fine.
I was in emergency for 100 yards, not slowing down coming down a hill. With the independent on, sand, so you know it's a vibe. But you know, I don't ever remember playing this game for the realism. I remember playing it for the funny crashes. And
So three to dispatch.
Yes.
I was cleared to Rankin's Mill. We're at Rankin's Mill. Am I gonna have to pull into the mill siding for this meet? There's
No.
not a passing track.
No,
here.
I'd cleared you. Well, okay, so I'd previously cleared you to Hurley's Mills, but I'm going to. Yes, yeah, we're gonna keep that. Hurley's Mills on the main.
Okay. Well,
And
I
I'll
heard
be
mill
able to
and,
loop
and
around
then,
you there.
Was obviously I saw the first mill and then panicked and grabbed the automatic. All right. We're really railroading like we're asleep today. Here we go.
It's all good. I have to.
oh,
I
other
have to
forward.
check the map and make sure that I actually had a siding there to route you around. And meanwhile, from the comments section, let's see. Nickley is asking, on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate these games? Railroader, MSGS, Train Z being best trade game.
Well, best how? Like
Yes.
most realistic, most nostalgia trip, most enjoyable.
Yeah, I've been thinking about this question a lot because for a long time now I've kind of wanted to put a what train game is right for me kind of video out there because a lot of people are like see the different games that I play or Con play or other people play and they're really each game really kind of scratches a different itch and some of them are overall better than others I would say but like there's really a space for all of them I think so.
Yeah, I think yeah. And we were just talking about this in the AM&W guys, my Railroad, and RO Railroad for those who follow the channel. But it's like we started playing RO again, partially because of your series, Hyce. Not thank you. And it's like this game scratches a particular itch, but I don't really enjoy playing it. But like it scratches that like needed itch, and then hopping in here to open rails, and that scratches a totally different itch. It's very nostalgic versus hopping into Train Sim Classic. Is it now? Like that scratches like a totally different itch and like what I'm looking to play. So I don't think I could really rank them.
Whenever I covered train sims on At the Rail Yard, which includes open rails, Trains 19, and Run 8, I always refrained from giving them scores because, and not even, I didn't even really give them seals of approval either because I didn't want to put them in the same categories trying to compare them against routes. I like the idea that you brought up of doing a kind of a guide, Mark, because that's something that I was probably thinking about even 10 years ago and haven't considered since, but I think that there'd be value in it because it depends on what type of railroading interests you, the complexity of railroading. Do you care about being able to build your own routes? There are a lot of factors to it, and so probably the best way to do that is some kind of extended video thing that explores the merits of each, because I don't think there's any single one answer. Even for me, there's not anything that gets it all at this stage. It's pieces of what I want in different games.
Yeah. I'm waiting for the day that game comes out that scratches every itch, but I don't think that's possible. Maybe Railroader. Shameless plug.
Maybe.
Who knows?
We can always hope.
Yeah, and I mean, part of it too is it's just incredible to see how far things have come. Because with Railroads Online, I mean, I remember when Run 8 came out, and just the idea of being able to have a stable multiplayer was wildly different than anything that I experienced before in these single player games. Let alone to then get up to the Railroads Online level of being able to lay track and actually build your line in the game environment as opposed to a separate uh, surveyor or route editor, that type of thing.
Yeah, I
Uh,
was thinking about this earlier of like the iteration of train games, and like I was out of it for a while after I could no longer play MSTS. Right around the time Open Rail started becoming a thing, and like I was, heading off to college, senior in high school, um, exploring other interests, actually getting involved in the real thing, and then kind of like refound train games through RO, and then like hopping back into Open Rails, and then Run 8 with on the channel, and like realizing like it's cool to see the progression of like where it came from in MSTS to like where we are now, and how similar a lot of things were, even through like Train Sim Classic.
I agree with that because, like, I definitely before Railroads Online came out, I hadn't played like a train PC game in probably several years. Because, like, for me, it got to the point where a lot of the train games didn't really have the right real sim piece to it.
Mm-hmm.
And being involved in the real thing, it's like, well, none of these train games come anywhere near this. And so it kind of turns into, well, I'm looking at crappy digital scenery simulator. Like, I'm watching crappy ferns out the window of a locomotive, and that's the experience of the game. You know, for somebody who's fortunate enough to have the experience of doing the real thing a little bit, it's like nothing really held a candle afterwards. But Railroads Online kind of rekindled that thing because it meant that there was multiplayer and there's other things that we can do, you know, and other ways to experience it, which is exciting. So it's like, oh, like kind of brought in let's take a look and see what's out there now. And there's a lot more now than there was even 5-10 years ago.
Oh
It's cool.
God, yeah. I think it
and
was. Sorry, go ahead, Nick.
what Railroads Online brought to the table that very few specific add-ons could quite replicate is the sense of discovery and the sense of newness of the technology and of carving the landscape in rail. There are a few notable ones that I can think of that did that really well, as far as having any sense of discovery. So the Ozark Northern, which I reviewed for Microsoft Train Simulator,
Oh God.
which was 1890s railroading. So that had that flavor really well. And you got it. There was another one by the same guy who did that, who did the St. Louis, Northern Arkansas, St. Louis, North Arkansas, where part of the line is still under construction. And then you had things like Seaview. I wonder if anybody out there remembers Seaview. Seaview was a fictional fantasy route where you had all these islands that were different, very fantastical things. There was a dinosaur island, a space island, an island where you traveled upside down, Igloo Island. The first time driving that, and I did that as a review on season 2, that really had a sense of discovery with it. But mostly, the tracks are there. There's the discovery of the first time you're maybe running the route, but then then you know it. But with Railroads Online, because you're building in the game, and especially when we all plunked down our $35 and fired up the game for the first time, and we're trying to find where the industries are, and we're trying to figure out the best way to connect, that really captures the feeling of discovery.
Especially in the early days when there was no minimap.jpg.
Right. Yes.
Where are the industries? Well, go look for smoke.
Uh,
You might find one.
I shudder.
Yes.
I think a part of going off of Discovery, a part of that was like, and this one's a little bit recent, seeing all the Tahoe news, but um, Donner Pass
Mm.
and the Storm of 52, I think were like one of
Oof.
my favorite routes, and like I loved it because like I was discovering a part of the world I didn't have an experience with, but also like it was so incredibly detailed history wise that like I was learning cool stuff as I was playing a game. And like that blew me away.
Dorma 52 is one of the best for MSTS. I have no idea how well the animations and things function in Open Rails because I haven't played it probably since I reviewed it. But the ability to tell the tale of the snowbound streamliner city of San Francisco getting stuck in a snowdrift on Yuba Pass and bringing that history to life. That was a turning point for me at the rail yard and thinking about the ability of creatively and being able to go with to highlight such a dramatic event and using newsreel footage to contextualize the add-on itself, but also just realizing the power of train sims to immerse people in a time and a place, whether that be a specific history or specific event that unfolded, or to just create an atmosphere of something, which is uh, what I think Railroads Online captures really well. The value of that is something that has forever led me to preaching the benefits of train simulation to whoever will listen. But obviously, you guys are here, so you're listening, and I'm seeing nods of agreement in the lecture hall. Um,
Uh, Jersey, thanks for the sub. Much appreciated. Just dropped in chat, and hopefully someone in there can pin that. Oh God, what am I doing on this route? It's so hard. The bridge in Saco River is actively being rebuilt, so I dropped a link in for their website, so that way y'all can check them out. Definitely cool to see another one of the main 2-footers getting rebuilt.
yeah, so I
Well,
suppose we should speak into that idea of real history and the benefits of train simulation. So, the 2-footers, I had my first introduction in the summer of 2021 at the Wiscasset, Waterville, and Farmington, and it is such a different slice of railroading than you get from standard gauge. And since having read, oh, I'm trying to remember the specific book that I read on the subject. There's one book where it's like, if you're going to read one book about 2-footers, this is the book. And of course, I forget what it is, but it covers all of them. But the Bridge to the Saco River is one where you have some surviving pieces of equipment, including locomotives number 7 and number 8, some passenger cars, some freight cars that the engines are owned by Maine Narrow Gauge Museum based out of Portland, but you can frequently see them on the Wiscasset, Waterville, and Farmington. But while going up there, I had the pleasure of meeting a couple of fine gentlemen involved with the Bridgeton and Harrison Historical Society that are involved with getting, they own some of the property around Sandy Creek, and they are looking to be reinstalling track so that hopefully someday numbers 7 and 8 can truly come home and have a place to roam around where they are at. So if you think that is, if that sounds cool, especially being able to see what this railroad looked like back in its heyday and relate to the real pieces of equipment that survived, you should definitely check out that link, which is bridgetonrailroad.org.
This is going to seem really off topic, but I have had a close call with 4 deer in the last 30 seconds.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that was a part of this, but the whistle's getting some use over on my end.
I whistled at a deer and it ran at the locomotive.
They're not intelligent,
No,
particularly when pixelated.
no. Like
Yeah.
my 4 poly deer are not very smart over here.
No, they seem to want to run directly into the train more frequently than they want to run away from it. For reasons I don't understand. Because usually they spawn at different directions. But yay for 2001.
So being like
Deer logic.
real steam engineer and just like slamming the independent on is totally okay, right? We have a consensus on that.
That's what I've been doing with my one car.
With your one car.
I don't know.
Well,
What do you think, Mark? My opinion matters not on this, but Mark's does.
Opinion? Hang on. Sorry, what? What
Just-
did I miss?
Breaking with the independent.
Just
Oh.
slam the independent on in this game to stop.
I mean, if you're running the freight train, you might as well. But like, if you got passenger cars, I mean, even 2 cars, you're gonna feel that pretty quick.
Oh wait, MS, was this the game where like you'd get the report at the end and be like, "You're in train forces. How well did you throw around your passengers?"
Yes.
Was that this? Oh.
That is this.
Well, I'm screwed at the end of this.
Freight doesn't complain.
I'm running a passenger, which is like freight.
Freight that does complain.
I am in the hole for you here at Pearlie's Mill siding, so...
I'm coming up to another station. I don't know if that's the siding. I don't know. We'll see.
Well, 5 is stopped at Bridgeton.
Okay, well, the 5 then...
And Mickley, thank you for the sub.
This
think
is
I
the
saw that scroll by at
fastest
some
operating
point.
automatic brake valve I've ever seen. You put it in application and you've got a 5-pound set before you like even do anything.
So I'm getting a message from Hostler where this isn't air brake, it's actually vacuum brake that they're modeling, but it's
Oh, really?
charging. Yeah, I don't understand how this works.
The PSI and everything is all set up like it's
Air, right?
air, yeah.
Which might... It's probably...
They might be
That's interesting, 'cause
simulating the
they're-
effect of vacuum brake, but they might be like, and the game might only know what air brake is, and they're just getting
Yeah.
the effect appropriately.
I'm not sure on that one, because... Maybe it's in the open rail settings, because vacuum brakes were a thing all the way back in the original MSTS. But maybe you toggle I'm going to look at that in the back end of mine, because I didn't ever actually thought about that properly. While I'm looking at that back end, Casey, okay, you're there's some junction. Go back and see how far I can do. Okay. I'm gonna clear you to Sandy Creek on the. Yeah, Sandy Creek on the siding there, Casey.
Okay, Sandy Creek on the siding. Alright. I'm gonna be sitting here for another 5 minutes while we load passengers.
Oh, good.
Generous amount of time.
I'm theoretically not missing the station stop at West Sebago. Theoretically, still theoretically. Hey, the last step of the train is at the platform. I'm counting it. We're there.
No, that counts. That's a win.
I
Yep.
only 99% missed the platform, but hey, that means I'm 1% at the platform, which, there you go. We're all good. It's fine.
We have a question from Icer the Blue Lion. Can building a railroad in Train Z help a real tourist line or short line grow and getting more business? And I think that's getting a little bit at the point that we're talking about tonight is, how can video games participate in preservation? And I think it's a bigger topic than just like, hey, look, we're running on a railroad that's rebuilding. I know that train games got me involved in preservation and actively participating in going from this is fun on the computer to I want to learn how to do this for real, and knowing going in I can't come off as a know-it-all because I'm not a know-it-all. I know nothing, literally. Um, but like, where's that line blur with video games and train games and preservation? I think that's a kind of the crux of the conversation. I know RO is definitely cool. RO has the potential to be cool and show off narrow gauge railroading that doesn't exist anymore. For, I don't know, it'd be cool if RO in a perfect world gets to become this amazing game that's stable, and the Colorado Railroad Museum runs a video game night for people who are interested in trains and they host an RO server. I don't know. I'd
That would be
participate in
fun.
something like that.
We have jokingly talked about setting up cabs with video game controls and then like screens and stuff and fun things like that because we have opportunities for like display cabs like the Crew Switcher and
Hmm.
you know there's a couple steam locomotive cabs and things that may potentially be available for such things. So we joked about that, but that's definitely part of the blurred line of possibility. Um, the one thing that I've seen directly is that the Durango and Silverton route for Train Sim Classic, a million years ago, God, it probably came out 15 years ago now. No, probably only 10, whatever. Uh, the Durango and Silverton route was made, or all the funds went to the Durango Railroad Historical Society. So if you bought that route, you could run on the Durango and Silverton, A, but B, you were funding the 315. So you're actively playing a video game to make trains do real train things, which is really cool and a really neat idea. And I don't know if I've seen anything else like that elsewhere, but that's a really cool idea.
Yeah, like
A similar arrangement was that I've seen to that is with the Talachlin Railway. God, saying those double L's is never easy.
I was gonna say you had the appropriate amount of spit in your mouth when you said that one. That was good.
Yes, I was trying for it. A for effort.
Talachlin.
The Talachlin. So in Wales, aka the Scarlowy Railway from the Railway series / Thomas the Tank Engine, where the Reverend Audrey actually volunteered as a guard, and that there was a guy by the two guys, Steve Ponton and Kevin Martin. They first made it for Microsoft Train Simulator, and then later for Railworks, now Train Sim Classic. And you could still buy the or I don't know about the MSCS one, but also that's old. You can buy the one for Train Sim Classic. It still works, and that the proceeds from that go to the real life Talachlin Preservation Society. I have many thoughts on this as far as your question, Hyce, the Blue Lion. As far as I think the potential is there. I will say I don't. For the most part, I haven't seen museums or entities making full use of that potential. For example, I've approached. I tried approaching one entity and saying, "Look, you're the thing. One of the things that you preserve is in a sim, and I'd love to work with you on trying to figure out what to do with that, even remotely, because I'm not close to that museum." And I never heard anything back from them on that, which I don't take to be personally. I take that as a communications issue. So I'm hoping that as more of our generation gets into positions of management with rail preservation, and we have this knowledge of the power of train simulation, that becomes more of a regular piece to the equation of making use of the fact that this thing exists as a tool, whether that be having a computer running in the station museum or even just as an interpretive tool to do videos or screenshots or something along those lines. Something that I'd love to see embraced more. And I think that we will see that more in the next decade. So one museum that I know, for example, is doing a train sim thing is the Pennsylvania Trolley Museum. I was actually there this past weekend. They are completing this very large visitor center project that they've been working on for decades, and big vision, long-term vision project of theirs, and it's nearing the finish line. And they will have a trolley simulator. I don't know what I don't know that it's based off of an open. I'm not sure how it's set to function if it's based off of pre-existing sim tech. I'm guessing it's something designated. But I certainly hope that more do so in the future. And I've had conversations with some of the people that I interview on the Roundhouse afterwards, saying, "Hey, there's this thing that is part of what you preserve, and check out this sim version of it, and it could probably and you could do something with that." But I'm not personally in a position with any of these entities to say, here we go. Here's how, here, like, we are going to do, we are going to try train sims in this specific direction. But hopefully more people will do that. So I inspire you, Icer, and others, if there's something that you're involved with, especially if you have, let's say your local museum is one of these smaller depot things, to consider taking the charge on that. Well, I have a story about building the Whiz Beach in Upwell, but I'll get to that in a bit. But just to say, you might want to consider learning how to build routes in a train simulator, because then, yes, then you could build something that helps to tell the story of a history gone by.
So Nick,
Yes.
if you look over, you'll note that I have 100% more station steps or car steps at the station platform, and I'm fouling the crossing, but I am on the main at Pearlie's Mills.
I do see that. And so I will continue my journey towards Bridgeton Junction. And I will give you clearance to... I will give you clearance to Sandy Creek on the main, where you will be meeting number 5.
Number 3, clearance to Sandy Creek on the main. Meet number 5. Number 5 will be in the hole. Here we go.
Oh, all right. I gotta make my station stop and then shove it and then switch.
Noah Train, I wish Strasbourg would be made in a sim. It is. There is a version of it for Train Z there was an obscure link that you could find that's harder to find, but somebody is working on it. It is close to done. I'm led to believe sometime this year, but don't quote me on that. That's just my understanding of where it's at. So yeah, for Train Z, there is a Strasbourg Railroad in progress. And until it comes out, you could at least enjoy the locomotives. A company by the name of K&L Trains has created the primary Strasbourg locomotives. And you can always enjoy those in the meantime.
So one of the things I think would be really good for organizations is partnering up with maybe people who are up-and-coming modelers or do it professionally, and using that as a fundraiser of, like, get this engine in the game with 75% of the proceeds going towards its restoration. Like, that'd be something I'd get behind a lot, and may get me to play different games. It may get me to hop back into, like, Train Sim Classic to be able to, like, help an organization, but also, like, get to mess around with the engine in a sim. I would be all for that.
I think there's a lot of value in that space. There really is, and it's kind of an untouched market, I think, because it's only been done a couple times.
Yeah, outside of the Durango one, I can't think of anything else that's even done something remotely like that.
Yeah, I mean, there's certainly examples of where there's a train sim version of the real thing. I mean, Strasbourg Railroad, there's an old Microsoft train simulator version of it. So if you're really dying for something Strasbourg, you could download that off of Train Sim. I know Cumbres and Toltec exists for MSTS. Some of the other choice railroads I can't think of off the top of my head. Um, but yeah, they usually just kind of exist side by side. It's not like something was officially tied in or commissioned, or that gap is being bridged. Uh, Another skill that if this is the type of thing that interests you, learning 3D modeling, it's the type of thing that not only would it be beneficial to you as far as being able to make whatever you want in any of these simulators, but could have real world benefit because 3D artists are very much in demand as far as video games in general are concerned. So it's a good being able you could translate to CAD and that translates into manufacturing. So it's a good skill to have. And honestly, something that I've learned from experience is that I have ideas for projects, but I am not remotely a 3D modeler, and I just find myself where in life right now where I can't take on learning all of the skills that would require, let alone being really good at it, like you see some of the folks out there. So, and the 3D modelers who are out there, I find, and Mark, you could probably attest to this, having worked with them as part of some of the past endeavors you've been involved with, they tend to already know what they want to do. Like, yes, could you probably throw enough money at them for them to consider something else? Yes, maybe. But it's a lot easier if you teach, well, easier. But you're probably going to get a quicker result by teaching yourself how to work in a program like Blender and learning the skills and then being able to make your own. Start simple with things like buildings and then move on to rolling stock.
You're definitely right about modelers. Most of the modelers started the way that you described, of being able to want to make whatever you want. They like what they like. They know what they want to make. They know what's been missing. Like, if you've got something you want to see, it definitely could be something that you could make. And I definitely know what you mean about, like, oh yeah, let's get into 3D modeling. Like, I would love to, and I'm sure I could figure it out. And I've done SolidWorks and 3D engineering and stuff, so I'm sure that I could figure it out pretty handily and pretty quickly. But um, the amount of random skills that I have to have doing the YouTube productions, everything already as it sits, I already feel like a jack of all trades and master of none. So I don't need to add yet another trade to attempt to be master not of, because I'm already decently mediocre at storytelling, lighting, editing, all those things. So it's like, let's improve one of those instead of adding yet another pile to that. So also, I definitely overshot Ingalls Road platform by like 2 train lengths, and I'm now shoving back up the 2% grade to get back into the station. It's fine.
Well,
My passengers are. They paid for the whole railroad, but little did they know they're getting more than the whole railroad. So
they're getting some of it twice.
I don't charge extra either.
Now that's a deal.
Generous.
I'm pulling into the hole here at Sandy Creek.
Sandy Creek, yes. Something that I've seen come up in the chat is people are mentioning the ability to generate DEMs or generate terrain data and start building routes. So my experience with that is my recent adventure in recreating the Wisbeach and Upwell tramway for Train Z. So I was learning about the tramway, aka the real home of the real Toby the Tram engines, Ian Thomas reference, and at some point I just thought to myself, I'll give this route building thing a try. And I would have never imagined when I started at the rail yard that I would have the patience or desire to see through building even a 6-mile long tramway. And 6 miles isn't that long, but then again, you're talking about a railroad where the maximum speed is 12 miles per hour, so every inch of that gets heavily scrutinized. It took me, if I'd not gotten distracted by other things, probably a year, but it took me 3 years. But I learned a lot about the tramway. I learned a lot about doing research and trying to get the feel of a place right, because no way could I possibly get it building by building accurate. But if I could at least get the feel of it right, and using books as reference for things like grade profiles and stuff like that, uh, if it's something that really matters to you, as far as there's a history you want to explore or something present that you want to be able to experience in the sim, you might surprise yourself by what you're able to accomplish by taking the time to learn the associated skills. So for that, I didn't learn 3D modeling. That was just learning the Train Z surveyor, being able to place track in buildings. So I didn't have to learn a skill. I mean, there's skills associated with that, but not to the extent of 3D modeling. So it's a valuable thing because now that I've done that, there's the satisfaction knowing I've done that, the satisfaction that now other people can enjoy that work. I tried to see if there were any historical groups in the UK that would be tied or interested in doing something with that interest, and I'm not sure that there are specific ones. But there's a Facebook group dedicated to it, so I've shared progress and things there. Shameless plug.jpg. You can check out the finished product of that. I did a review of it at the rail. Well, I didn't do a review, but I did an episode of At the Rail Yard about the route, and so you can find that on YouTube. So just to say that, as someone who never thought I would ever do a one-for-one train sim route, I ended up doing it. I've considered and still consider others that I might do. But I know that if somebody came to me and said, "Oh, would you do this route?" I probably wouldn't unless I was already planning to, because it is a huge investment of time. Worth it if it matters to you, but it's respecting the time investment it takes.
The amount of times playing back in the MSTS days where I've gone like, I totally want to build like my dream route and like I guess kind of a model railroader fashion of like this is the route I want to run on, but not having the skill or knowledge to do it, and it being I don't know however many years old, and Google is still kind of a new thing, and Ask Jeeves was the big deal still, and
Mm.
yeah, it was just so much of a lift, and that's where stuff where like RO kind of came in and gave me that opportunity to like build my railroad the way I wanted. Um, so like if you want to learn route modeling and build your own railroad in Train Z or Open Rails or I don't know whatever Train Sim Classic, go for it. Learn it, figure it out. Like you, I kind of regret not taking the time to do it and then getting involved in other things and it not really being a part of my life. So learn how to do it.
And the patience pays off, even if you're learning a skill that is very specific to that game that doesn't translate over to other games per se. The skill and discipline of saying, I am going to try to work on this and complete it, it there's value in that as a general life skill.
Hmm.
That translates to a lot of different things. But at the same time, Casey, it's never too late to learn something new. You might find yourself building that dream layout or what have you in a sim yet.
Maybe, though I run into the same problem as Mark, where I have far too many things on my plate to consider doing it. Between doing this, helping out on railroad, or my job, the railroad, um, if we're trying to buy a home right now. Like I'm building a new computer right now. There are way too many things that I'm trying to do where I'm like, that's probably going to sit on the back burner for a little bit longer before I even hop into it. Maybe one day. And you know the actual model railroad I want to build.
Well, yes, that too.
I just want to let you guys know that I had a perfect station stop at South Bridgeton. I had a decent set, kept the train stretched, walked right up to the end of the platform, stopped perfectly, didn't run through the grade crossing. Finally figured it out. How many station stops have I done so far? Like 8? Took me a minute. It's fine.
Um, God, I'm so glad you brought that up because that's like one of the things I low-key love about playing these types of games where like you can nail your station stop. And like, I don't know, as an engineer, I'm always striving to do better. I'm always striving to have better train handling, um, be gentler with the throttle, gentler with the brakes, get my marks even more perfect. Christmas trains on my railroad, you have like 2 to 3 feet of leeway with where you need to stop and where your clear points are for all the meets that happen. We run um, 3 steam engines, 3 train sets, uh, 3, 6,
It's
9,
pretty involved.
10 departures a night total between all 3 train sets. So like your meets need to be spot on time, and you need to be like perfectly on your mark. And like as an engineer doing that, I'm like, all right, I want to be better. I want to be better. I want to be better. And like when I nail it, there's always like a little bit of silent celebratoriness going on in my head of like, ah, yeah, I got that. But like I was playing Railroader the other day and brought a train down the hill with like a single set, and it brought me down the hill. And as I came off the bottom of the grade, my train slowed down to the speed restriction, and I kicked it off. And like enough of the train was on a flat, and enough of the train was on the hill where I just kind of like coasted through the restriction. And it was like,
Those are
oh,
moments as an engineer when you just giggle to yourself. Those are the perfect ones.
it,
And
it
usually it is a moment entirely to yourself.
mhm.
Nobody else will ever know, but oh my goodness, it's one of the best things in the world.
No one on the back of the train knows. The fireman's barely paying attention and didn't notice. So like you're just sitting there to yourself, and you're like, oh hell yeah. I hope someone picked up on that.
I had that once where I'd like perfectly set up the train. It was the perfect thing. Managed to go down the hill at the museum, the same speed the whole way down. Perfect everything, and with one brake application, nothing slid, nothing whatever. Like it just worked just perfectly. And my fireman was like, "How'd you do that?" And I was just like, "Ah, got it figured out today, bud."
Ah, those are absolutely the best.
And Casey, you'll note that I just blew right the hell past you,
I
going way
saw.
too fast on the approach to the station here.
I saw.
And I am at the station platform, and now I'm beyond the station platform, and now I'm more beyond the station platform. And I've had the train dumped for the past, I don't know, 100 yards, 200 yards. It's still beyond the station platform. It's fine. It's fine. All right, I'm going to shove back to the platform. It's
And
fine.
I'm gonna depart Sandy Creek here.
We were just talking about great engineering moments. That's one that's going to come up on the report with demerits. It's
Uh,
fine.
yeah, I think the road foreman wants to see you in his office.
As long as he
So
doesn't ask me to pee in a cup.
for the
Well, hey, you
longest
know what? You're
time, I
still
would
on the
have just
tracks.
that is important. For the longest time, I would have had to just nod and smile, of like, yes, that must be a nice feeling. But I am actually on my way to understanding that because I am working to become a qualified motorman on the Pennsylvania Trolley Museum, or at the
Ooh,
Pennsylvania Trolley Museum. So that's why I was there last weekend, is doing volunteer training. And so I'm working up to y'all with your trains. I'm talking a car. But I, over the course of 2 days, operated 7 different cars. And it is interesting to learn the intricacies of each, because no two are exactly alike, even if they're PCCs. But to the point about that feeling of, oh, I got it. Going through the switches at the museum, you go through the switches at 5 miles an hour. Just because if something's going to derail, it's going to derail this switch, and you want to be going slow. But then sections between that might be 10, might be 30. So the satisfaction of being able to motor up, to power up, and then coast, and let the grade or the natural resistance slow the car down so that you don't have to brake, or if you do brake, you're braking just the right amount so that you're not having to slow down too much, and then power up to get to that 5 miles an hour going through the switch. because usually, as a way of operating conservatively, I would slow down in advance and then just have to maintain that 5 going up to the switch, or repower up and then slow down. So the satisfaction of knowing I hit the groove, I can see that now. I get that now.
It's a cool feeling, and it's cool when you can do it in real life. It's cool when you can replicate it in a video game. That in something
Yeah.
like this, where you probably have no right being able to get it to replicate, like I'm about to have right now, where I think I'm blowing through a station.
Yeah, where I press the D key for approximately 10 seconds and the reg comes wide open in this game, versus I can just rip the stick in the real choo-choo. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's why I've got my rail driver front and center, so I could just slide any of my controls at a moment's notice, which I had to because I blew through Twin something like that.
Except I
Twin
dumped
Knights,
it
that
too
was the
early, and now I'm crawling in at Mach Snail.
Mox.
It's a speed.
Octopat. Trolleys are wonderful machines, so good to run. Yeah, they really are. It's um,
Well,
and that's something that I've thought about too when it comes to train simming, and I really have a soft spot in my heart for interurban. Started with the London Port Stanley and has continued through others like the Fonda, Johnstown, and Gloversville. Uh, Trolley history tends to get overlooked because they're not full big trains, but trolleys are cool in their own right. They are very, very underappreciated in the greater sphere of rail preservation.
maybe it's growing up in New York, but trolleys are so close to subways for me that like teeny tiny bit of a subway fan, subway foamer. Getting, I remember going to New York a couple of times and catching like the I don't even know what they call it, the vintage train for like Yankees
Oh, when
opening
they do
day.
the
Yeah,
transit authority.
or the Christmas when they run the Christmas trains
Yeah,
with
they
the
have the
Heritage
roving
set,
trains.
and like
Yeah.
getting to see that, it's like, yeah, no, like you're a 10-car trolley basically, but like you're not a steam engine, you're not cool, but like they're cool. Um, so like they have a transit stuff has a soft spot in my heart.
I definitely got a new appreciation for it when we were at the Rock Hill Trolley Museum just a couple weeks ago,
That's
as a
right.
side excursion to the East Broad Top. I mean, I'd never really gotten into the trolley stuff or looked into it and anything like that, but one of my channel members, very, very nice gentleman, ended up touring us through and seeing things. We got to run some of the cars, and it was really cool to hear from an expert in that field listen to everything about all those cars. And I mean, there's really an important story with everything because okay, maybe it's just what you took to work, or maybe it was just your little, okay, this is my commute, whatever, but that you saw back in the day. But now it's an important piece of history. So it may have seemed strange to be in the museum and see like a Siemens light rail vehicle that is the predecessor to ones that I've had to deal with in transit for real. But at the end of the day, it's a touchstone of the culture and the time in that area. Uh, so everything's important. Everything has a history and a story to it, and it was really cool to kind of get that experience.
Oh, that is very cool.
Octopat says, I volunteer at the Connecticut Trolley Museum. Look up Car 4. She's the greatest car ever to run. And I did, and 4 is specifically Montreal Tramways number 4, one of those open air, uh, really, it looks like pews in a church and very ornamental. Those Montreal open air cars are things of beauty. So yes, that is a nice car. Actually, the car that I have an appreciation for in your collection there, Octopat, is Springfield Terminal Railway 16, because I also became a fan of the Springfield Terminal thanks to Microsoft Train Simulator / Open Rails. There's a great Springfield Terminal was a 5-mile terminal railroad that connected between the Boston, Maine, in New Hampshire to Springfield, Vermont, and the whole thing is available, and you can use it in Open Rails, and it is a really well done add-on by Paul Charland. So yes, one of the combine trolleys exists still.
Hmm.
That's the one that I have an appreciation of from your collection there. Jewel Box Gaming, is there a 462 in this game? Yes, but there's never, to my knowledge, been a 2-foot gauge 462, and certainly the Bridgeton Saco River did not have one. So we will not encounter one on this particular stream, but if we went with any of the class 1s or fallen flags, I am sure one could be found.
Nick, I've made it to Bridgeton, and
Okie dokie.
it's end of track. There appeared to be a Y. Do I shove past? Like, what do I do here?
Yes. So you go back to that Y, or I mean, however you want to do it, because you've got that end of the railroad all to yourself right now. So you could use that Y to turn yourself around, and then once you've done your station stop, you continue down the leg of the Y that you did not come from, and that will take you to Harrison.
Okay, well, I definitely did my station stop beforehand, so we're just gonna shove past and then go down the other leg.
Yep,
It's fine.
that is one way to do it.
Normally I harp on good train handling when we do these, but anyone watching my stream can see very bad train handling.
Well, we only
I
have
am-
two cars to deal with, right? So
Yeah. What was that? Someone was telling me that the WWNF doesn't have air brakes, so they have physical brakemen ratcheting down brake wheels going down their 2% hill from not top of the mountain, where the mountain division, whatever that new extension is called.
The mountain extension.
The mountain extension? I was close. Yeah, there we go. So that's so bizarre to me. Like you're running passenger trains with people and no air brakes, no vacuum brakes, dude with a brake club. It's cool. Don't get me wrong.
Man with a stick.
Man with stick.
Yes. Man with stoppy stick. Ibonlu says, in my books, if all the wheels are on the rails, you're doing fine. That is a positive outlook.
I will take that.
So, something else when we look back on train simming is all of the series that were generating around 2007, 2008, as YouTube was becoming a thing. People were really starting to explore it as, oh, I can create videos and I can release them and people can actually watch them. So obviously we talked about At the Rail Yard, but another one I know that we wanted to cover is the Full Buccaneers.
I recently rediscovered that, prepping for this, and I thought it was a fever dream until I refound it on YouTube. And if you're in my Discord, I'll link to it after the stream, and you can have nostalgia about it if you were watching it in that time, or you can look at it and go, what the fuck is this? Because those are both the two correct answers to it. But it was an absolute nostalgia trip and a fever dream. But
Did you have a voice acting role in that, Mark?
I did. So, I was talking to Casey before we started, and she was mentioning Fever Dream, and I was in the same bucket because no, line me, somebody line me. That was not
Lies.
intended a pun. I was in the same boat where I totally 1000% forgot about that, completely utterly forgot. And then one day at the museum, and this is like 2 or 3 years ago, this is like me on vacation, coming from Seattle to the museum, not being involved as much anymore, whatever. Brett just comes up to me and he goes, "So Mark, how's the feed water heater doing?" And I go, "What?" He goes, "On the 40 for 49, the one you were firing?" And I went, "Oh my god." I have like a grand total of like 2 or 3 lines in that whole series because I remember all of the older kids that are a little bit older than me in the Skype uh, group. They were all the cool kids that got to voice characters on the Full Buccaneers, and I didn't have a part, and I was very bummed that I didn't have a part. So the creator wrote a special part for me to be the young fireman on the 40 for 49 and gave me like 2 lines, probably to get me to shut up because I was an annoying kid, I'm sure. But yeah, that's a thing. I'm in there. I'm credited, and I think I'm even credited as Hyce. So
The lore goes back that far.
the lore goes back far. The lore goes back real far.
Uh, Now, you mentioned the Skype call, and Nick, this is something that you and I have talked about before, and I didn't have an experience with because parents wouldn't let me do that kind of thing. But there was apparently a group Skype call for people our age-ish for through like trainsim.com where you guys all met, right?
So you have to remember that 2007, 2008, we're talking pre-Facebook exploding. We're talking about, yes, you had MySpace, but there wasn't really a concentrated scene of rail fans there. I'm sure people had accounts, but because MySpace was so much about individual expression, you didn't have a lot of congregation going on there. So I don't even remember how I found out about the existence of the thing. Probably somebody linked to it in their channel, because I remember the first time I ever called the creator of the full Buccaneers, Mr. Luke, and uh, and talking to him, and he was almost like, "Who's this random guy?" Because I don't know that I'd been doing at the rail yard at that point, um, but yes, so that was the way that we congregated. It's just you. So Skype, voice chat software for those not familiar with it, and you would just go on there. You'd mark yourself as being online, and then people might call you. You might be invited to join a group call, and you would just chat and hang out. Uh, it was a great way to be able to meet other rail fans my age, because growing up in northwestern PA, there weren't any. So there was the one chance that I got to talk with other guys about train stuff, and I was so happy that such an opportunity existed. So we'd congregate, and sometimes there'd be specific topics, but I remember times, and Mark, your experience probably mirrors this, where we would just, you'd get in the call, and there'd be times of dead silence, and then somebody'd chime in and say, "Oh, hey, did you hear, da, da, da," and then you'd talk about it a little bit, and then some more silence.
It was almost like a chat room. Like some of the calls were just like open for hours, days sometimes. And it's just like you'd pop in and XYZ people would be in there and people would be talking, or they'd be silent, or like sometimes they'd be foaming over XYZ whatever thing. But it was all like, it was very open like that. And it was a really interesting experience, but very, I don't know, it was very important and informative for me, because it was like, I had my granddad that liked choo-choo trains and got me into this, and then I had bullies at school that thought I was stupid for liking trains, and then there was no one else, and it was like, well, this is really cool. Why doesn't everyone else get this? And then meeting somebody else who knew what a K27 was like, oh my god, he's my age and he knows what a K27 is. We can talk about Rio Grande trains. Did you know they had a K37? Oh, you like, you know, that level of stuff. It was a super important part of my youth, and my mom hated it. Oh god, she's probably not watching this. She watches everything I do on YouTube, by the way, which is hilarious to me. Love you, mom, if you are watching. But she hated that. She was like, "You're talking to strangers on the internet. What are you doing? You're going to be murdered. You're going to be abducted. You know, all that stuff." And it was, I'd sneak downstairs and hop on the one computer that had internet in the household and talk to my train friends. Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah. I took that the further distance. So Train Festival 2009 in Owasso, Michigan, I actually organized a meet and greet where we met up at a pizza place. And so I got to meet these guys that I'd known for 2 years only online. And that was super neat to actually be able to, hey, there's a group of 8 of us and we know each other because of this thing. And quite a few of us have remained in contact. One of them's now an Amtrak engineer. Another one works for Trains Magazine. So yeah. I mean, the going against the grain of wisdom as far as you don't talk to strangers now, as far as internet culture this day and age, is such a
Very different thing than it
foreign
was,
concept.
I mean,
15, 20
you
years
guys are
ago.
all
Yeah.
strangers on the internet, and
It's
I'm
true.
friends with you guys.
Hey, Nick's not a stranger on the internet anymore. I
This
finally
is
met
true.
him.
Well,
I have
Finally
met
did
Nick in
it.
person too. So,
Yes.
By
Mark,
the
you're the
transitive
only stream.
property, by the transitive property of mathematics, you are no longer a stranger on the internet. I think that's how that works.
I don't know. I went to film school, so I didn't have to do math.
Oh, that's fine. Yeah,
That's from the Basic Solid.
it's funny. It's funny to me to now know that you were the person that organized that, because I remember seeing pictures from that and being like, "Man, I didn't get to go to that. That's cool." Trading
Oh, I'm
friends did train
sorry.
stuff. Single
Now
tier.
we're gonna
I was
have your Discord erupting and
anti-Nick propaganda. How dare he?
How dare he exclude?
Oh,
You
I
know,
was.
and the
I was. It
seeds were
was.
sown.
It was not gonna be. I was the West Coast guy. I was all the way in Seattle. I was never gonna make it out.
I mean,
That
you
was-
could have taken
yeah.
40 for 49 there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wish. I really wish. I loved. That was my favorite engine when I was a kid. So like, yeah, no, I it was mega sad that I never made it up to that. But it's funny. I never met any of those people until the Great Western Steam Up this past summer, and we managed to like miss each other until Monday. Like Aaron was there and Liam and all these people, and it was like,
Ah,
oh my god, they finally found me, and we got pictures, and it was fun. It was like, good god, it's been like 15 years. How is it now? 15, almost 20 years, really. But and then of course meeting you at East Broad Top recently. Yeah, so
yes.
I've met a couple of the folks now. So
Yeah, it's so reaffirming. That's why I'm such a big fan of how the internet has empowered rail fans to be able to connect. Obviously, there's downsides to the culture, but overwhelming, I see the positives of having Facebook groups where people can talk about very specific niche subjects and these opportunities to meet in advance. Things like Discord, where I get Discord as a thing. I participate in it as much as I can, but that's not much because if I was maybe 5 years younger, I'd be able to get it more and get into it more. But I respect it for the amount, especially the community that you've built up, Mark, and how tight knit those people are and connected to one another, and that it gives another avenue for enjoyment that, in some cases, remains just digital, but in some cases could expand beyond that to meeting other people in person, which is the ultimate goal in a lot of these cases.
oh, thank you, Nick. It's the Discord. It was funny. It just kind of started as like a oh, you know what? Well, we're gonna make our own Discord, because I was in the middle of doing things with Railroads Online and being community manager and whatever, and it was like, maybe we should have one for the channel. I don't know. There's like 10,000 people that watch the YouTube at this point. Why not? And then now there's like almost 5,000 people in the Discord, and
My God.
I don't even know what to do with it. And it's like I tried to read as much as I can, and it's like hopeless to try and keep up with some of the amount of conversations that go on. So I now practice the role of just being Bill Murray, and I just wander in and steal someone's French fry and say nobody will believe you ever, and then walk out. So I just kind of show up, post a GIF, and leave. It's fine.
Excellent. No, your server reminds me a lot of and I'm sure it's like this for some of your younger members of like it's like what trainsim.com was for me when I first started getting into trains and finding younger people and finding that community and interacting and heavily following Nick's posts and stuff on there and downloaded some of your reskins that I rediscovered, Nick. But like
Yes.
being on High Scored reminds me a lot of that and more as an observer than a participator at times, and it evokes that same feeling of like this is where the next generation is coming together.
Yep.
Or one of the
That's-
places the next
that's the way
generation
I
is
look
coming
at it.
together.
That is so. It is very strange for me to be on the end of, oh, I'm helping foster this and have created this, because it's like I'm just making YouTube video. I'm making videos about choo-choo trains because I think it's fun. And now that there's like a whole, like, not even like a movement, but like there's all these people behind it and interest and members and things, and there's vested interests and stuff, and it's like this is very strange. I did not envision this when I started making videos about video game train music a year and some change ago, and it's been a wonderful, fun time. So
It's weird how life takes you in that direction. Um, but like I think what you're doing with the video game train stuff and the railroading 101, I think that's a perfect, like it seems like the right way of getting people involved and seen on your streams of promoting volunteerism. And that's something that's a huge part to me of, getting out there and going to volunteer at a railroad museum, getting your hands dirty. I think it's cool that your community has fostered in that way and grown fairly successfully in that way.
well, thank you. It is pretty exciting.
And, and to add to that, the fact that I think a lot of us are kind of amazed at what we're able to do with our day-to-day lives that grew first and foremost from a love of trains, but secondarily from the ability to connect with others, use these digital tools, kudos to Nels Anderson, who founded trainsim.com, and that was a watering hole. I one of my best friends I met because I saw that he lived not too far from me on trainsim.com, and then we connected in real life. So that was super nifty. But then what people are generating through Facebook groups, through Hyce, these are things that are empowering people. So now, I mean, look at you, Mark. Look at what you got going on for yourself. Look at me. I'm fortunate enough to be a freelance filmmaker, and a lot of my work is with centered around railroads. And look at you, Casey, with being able to be engineer and fireman.
Yeah, my nice little community here at the VRA, but also like through Nick, I met a bunch of other women who work at railroad preservation, and have become friends with them and have made plans to meet up and hang out at our respective railroads and interacting. And this is taking it out into the real world a little bit, but like it's such an awesome experience when I'm in the cab and I'm running and mom and the little girl come over and they go, "Oh my God, it's a woman running the train." And it's like, "Hey, you guys, come on up into the cab. You get this experience." And like the little girl's eyes are giant because it's like there's someone who looks like me doing this. And it's such a cool experience knowing that I've now transitioned from being that person, of being that like I want to do this, to now being that role model and helping encourage other people. It feels great, but it's such a weird change to go through.
That's probably the best way you could possibly put that. It feels great, but it's very weird.
It's I'm just, it's a hobby. I'm doing this as a hobby and having fun. But like, you shouldn't look up to me, but please do.
Exactly. It's like, this is just me. This is just what I'm doing, and the fact that it has an impact, that whatever it is a strange thing, a good thing, a very good thing.
It's heartwarming.
It's interesting to process as an individual. Like, yeah.
I've always had the philosophy that, but as I get older, I'm able to recognize being deliberate about it, and that is that if I love what I'm doing and I could communicate that passion, that I hope others feel similarly inspired to connect with their passions. I think that our culture has a strange relationship with passions, about the idea of whether you can really live the dream. God, I hate the phrase living the dream. Sorry if you use that phrase. I hate it because usually it's used sarcastically. And I get that, that there's a lot of times when we can't truly, quote unquote, live the dream. I get that. I fully respect that. But I think that there's sometimes this feeling that you can't do you ever truly get to do what you love, especially as a day job, or like do you get to truly get away from the things in life that trouble you and have a real escape? And I hope that when I'm talking about trains and I'm introducing people into my world, whether through talking with them or showcasing videos, that they respond to the passion of that. I mean, if I've converted them into being a rail fan, great. I don't think I will have, but great. But the real thing is just to make somebody smile and to make somebody happy and feel comfortable for them to explore what their passions are or could be.
Yeah, it's a fun space to get into, and kind of going off that and sucking people in. I don't know. As I've gotten older, it's interesting that like the people who probably would have bullied me in high school, if I went to high school with them, suddenly think like that what I do is the coolest thing ever, and that it's such a cool and unique hobby. And it's like, huh? When did this
That
happen?
is that is the bizarre thing that happens, like once you get out of high school and get into college. All the crap that you got made fun of for being passionate about railroading, trains, whatever, you're a nerd, and now you're just not an everyday, normal, average, boring person. You're not punching a time card 9 to 5, doing nothing, going home watching TV. You're somebody who's got something that they really are passionate about and live for, and people look at that, and people really like that. And not everybody has something like
Okay
that,
to
so we're
proceed.
fortunate that we do, and it's important to us in that regard, because not everybody has some passion like that, and you might get made fun of for it early, but you won't later, believe me.
Uh, Moral of the story for you youngins out there is it does get better.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Moral of the story for me is that I'm glad they don't simulate boiler explosions in this game, because I arrived to Bridgeton having had my boiler with 0% water for approximately half of a mile. It's fine.
Oh, that's right. You have the uphill trip. I'm going downhill here, so I'm like, how am I doing? And I have
I looked over at
31% water left in my tender.
I was at 0 or getting close to 0, and I looked at your stream and I was like, wow, yeah, she's had the easier run of it.
Apparently. Though not terribly, because I just keep blowing all my station stops trying to uh, deal with these breaks.
Well, you're just giving me extra time to complete my. Well, now I'm having to reconnect my air, and I'm not sure that I've actually got it. Oh yeah, I've got it working. So, um, yeah, I'm getting out of the way for you for your stop at Bridgeton Junction.
Okay, I'm still 4 miles out.
Uncle Sean 84. This is the Bridgeton and Saco River 4 open rails. Is there a place to download? There was a place to download it. I don't know if so there's a forum called the El Voss Tower,
Oh my
like the
god.
singer. Yep.
Sorry.
There's a name. Yeah. There's a name you haven't heard in a long time too. So, and that's where I first learned about its existence. And he had a download links that didn't work anymore, so I contacted him and he sent me new links. So I'm gonna try to see if I can get him connected with the Bridgeton and Saco River Historical Society folks, because maybe then they'll post. Maybe then they'll get this route hosted there. Because as you can see, it is a complete product. It is done. So I will work on that. Because I can talk to people. That is a thing I can do.
Oh god, when you brought up a Voss Tower, that's where I got like all of my narrow gauge stuff for originally with MSTS.
Mm-hmm.
That threw me back. One thing is I'm playing this and I realized as was speeding around a curve is 30 miles an hour sounds like 80 miles an hour in these little things
Which,
in the game.
Little itty
which,
bitty drivers.
yeah, kind of true. Kind of not, but kind of true.
We had I was talking about this with some friends earlier today. We had this moment at the museum when it's right around when I graduated from college. We put the SP6 chime on 346 because when I was a little kid, I liked the SP6 chime and I liked 346's whistle or 346's chuff on my granddad's sound system. So I asked if we could do that. So we did. So we put on an SP6 chime on 346, and I think it was like one of Brett's first times running an engine, and he comes up the hill and he blows a big warning whistle, and you're looking off to the side, and it sounds like the SP-2472 is doing 55 miles an hour with an express passenger train. Got to have a bunch of cars behind it, just absolutely slogging it up, and you look over, and there's 346 doing 10 miles an hour. It's just like, oh yeah, okay, that's funny.
That's good.
Yeah. Funny how the Sonic experience could be so deceiving.
Yes.
Although then again, those who are used to the 2-footers probably look at standard gauge and go, why is it going so slow?
Well, there is someone that I think all three of us know. Well, you know, Mark.
Well, you know, Mark.
Oh, well.
Well, you know, Casey.
I have always heard that 3-foot gauge is really standard gauge. Standard gauge is broad gauge. And the main 2-footers are really narrow gauge. And that is how the world of gauges was described to me.
That's
and this game makes me think of that greatly.
yeah, this is real narrow gauge right here.
Yes, you work in the standard gauge. How about that?
I know, it's funny.
Dualblocks Gaming, unfortunately, so OpenRail, Dualblocks is asking about how you see the other streams. Well, unfortunately, there's only Casey's view. Now, OpenRails does have a multiplayer mode. We tried, and tried,
Oh my god.
and tried to get it functional because we so wanted to be able to do that with you guys, where you could actually see the other trains pass for the meets and so forth. We did not succeed in that, so that is why you're getting El Cheapo MSTS era multiplayer. So back in the day, back in my we're talking like
How old are you?
2009. Depends on what day
back
of the
in
week
my
you
day.
ask me. Yeah, I'll leave that open for interpretation. But there, I formed a multiplayer group with friends of mine, and we would run MSTS routes. This was before OpenRails was on the horizon. We ran MSTS routes, and though you couldn't see the other train, if you listened to the TeamSpeak, name drop, TeamSpeak multiplayer, or the TeamSpeak channel, you would think that you were listening to real Railroad Protocol, because whatever railroad we were doing, the communication was 100% prototypical. We'd pull rules out of the rule book. You had to call signals. There wasn't extraneous chatter. Everything was related to what was going on in the game. So you'd pull up that feed and you'd think that you were listening to an actual NS or Canadian Pacific feed, because we ran it straight. There was no winking to each other. We were so serious that we had a trading program. We trained new people coming in. Then there was a practice session before the main session so that you got used to calling signals and that railroad's operating rules. And then Saturday was game day. So we took it seriously. It was the Virtual Operators Railroading Association, VORA. So like VRA, but with an O. And about operations, not education. Although there was education involved with it.
I remember seeing I guess, the section of trainsim.com for that and being like, I want to do that. And my mom being like, no, you're not talking to strangers on the internet. So,
Understandable.
yeah, I remember seeing all of your posts way back in the day about it and thinking it was the coolest thing in the world.
Oh, yeah.
Of like, Oh my
Yeah, I'd
god, they
rather
figured
have
out
things.
they got the multiplayer. That's so cool.
And it was because honestly, yes, is being able to see the other train cool? Yes. So there are operational advantages as demonstrated by Railroads Online and double heading and so forth. Yes. But especially with a lot of class 1 stuff, a lot of it is just you're running your own train and then you occasionally meet somebody else. So it's not a gigantic leap of the imagination if you're having a meet and you just have to pretend that the signal ahead isn't green and you have to pretend that there's another train that's passing you for the 5 minutes it's passing you. Would it be cool to see that? Of course, and that's the benefits of a game like Run 8. But where we didn't have that, it didn't matter. I nowadays my train simming I tend to play 1 maybe 2 hours at a time. But back in the day, I could play. Back in my day, I those sessions I'd run for 6 hours. I'd be perfectly happy.
I remember playing by myself for 6 hours in MSTS and being perfectly happy. I mean, I was also, you know, in high school and had all the time in the world to do that. Um, but I remember being able to do it and it being having so much fun with it. Of being like, I'm traveling the railroad.
Yes, the
So
luxury of time.
I have traveled the railroad and I've gotten my report. You guys ready for this?
Oh no.
So
Uh huh.
passenger 4, difficulty easy. Its estimated duration 2 hours. The elapsed duration 1 hour 37 minutes. Traveled
Damn.
21.1 miles. One steam engine burned 775 pounds of coal, which is almost 52%. Water consumption 99.8%. So I still had 0.2. It's fine. Station arrival, departure, and passing evaluation. Station arrival 11. Missed station stops 0. They must have a wide confidence interval on those stations.
Just seriously.
Departure before passenger boarding completed 11. I didn't know that there was a scheduled time for each stop, and so I'd sit there for like 30 seconds and then just go. Apparently, I was supposed to wait longer than that, and I didn't know what button to press. So, yeah, so I blew through every station. That's fine, technically. Left some people behind. No work order tasks, so nothing there. My running total is still 0, because I got 0 points for not picking up any passengers. Speed evaluation. Overspeed, 2. Overspeed time, 23 seconds, so not too bad. Overall rating total, 65. Freight durability / passenger comfort evaluation. 100. No issues.
Ooh.
No overloaded couplers, no trains overturned, no curve speed limits exceeded. Emergency / penalty actions evaluation. Full train brake applications under 5 mile an hour. 5. None other. No emergency applications while moving or stopped. No alert or issues. I mean, it's a steam engine, so overall rating 90. So, rating in stars, station arrival, departure, passing evaluation, nothing. Work orders, nothing. Speed, 3 stars. Freight / passenger comfort, 5 stars. Probably because there were no passengers on board because I left before they got on. And emergency / penalty actions, 4 stars. Nailed it.
Well, I will. That's all good. I will tell you. Wow, that is spicy coming into Bridgeton there.
Yes, it's. I have a 15-pound set.
Mm-hmm.
Why is my brake applying when I'm in running?
You're about to pass me in 10
Oh,
seconds.
okay, yeah, there. I think I see you up there.
Yeah, I am invisibly in that siding. But yes, to your point, Mark, you don't actually have to press any keys. It is just a matter of waiting for the allotted time, and then you depart. So you did good. Nicely done. Have you played Open Rails recently, or is this your first exposure?
This is
to it?
actually my first exposure to Open Rails. I downloaded it once, and then I didn't have any routes, and I didn't know how to get any routes. And I had my original MSTS discs, but it glitched out, and it wouldn't install from disk 2.
Yeah.
So I couldn't get MSTS to give me routes, so I just gave up on it.
Well, you don't. If you still have the installation, like you have the routes, You should be able to just reference them in OpenRails too. But you
It's
know
not
people who can
installed on
help
my
you out with
PC,
that.
unfortunately. I do know people who can help, but
Uh,
I gave this is many years ago at this point.
so as a
Why am I seeing
look,
another train?
that must be part of the activity. That is not me. I can assure you. Oh yeah, they are. Or no, they're just sitting there. I don't know what that's
Yeah,
about. You know,
I'm actually very confused. So I said I
is
was
he?
mentioning I was building a new computer way back earlier in the
Is
stream.
is that train number 3?
It is
Is that
train
my
number 3. It's
that is
you.
that's my train. Look, I
Oh wow.
teleported back. I'm there.
Oh my
That's
god.
exactly where I started.
Huh. What a small
Interesting.
world. So,
Uh,
what is your take on Open Rails? What do you think of it?
it's a nostalgia trip.
It's MSTS. It's better MSTS.
I don't know if I'd say better. I had a hard
I,
time playing this, but like I definitely want to hop back into like I don't know the Donner Pass or full bucket line and find the 4449 in game again and like try that out and see if it's what I remember with you know a cab interior and not whatever this 2D image is. But it's a nostalgia trip and it's MSTS.
yeah, I appreciate that there's been an effort to have new breaking physics and it, namely just to keep the software alive since MSTS technically died from a corporate standpoint in 2002. And then these aborted MSTS2 attempts that closest thing we got out of that was Kuju Rail Simulator, which became Railworks, which is now Trains in Classic.
And Run 8 is kind of it's not officially MSTS2, but it's I remember playing that with you this summer, and that very much felt like I am back in MSTS again, but diesel and
Well, not
real train
that
physics.
being, yep, and that was created by the same folks who created Donner Pass, the 3D train stuff.
Oh,
So
really?
yes, yep. So you could say of a sort it was born out of MSTS and a desire to do what MSTS couldn't. But I look forward to seeing how current technology improves because there's still, for all the things we do get, there's still things that no one has done yet. As far as things like being able to, oh, I mean, and honestly, it's just like taking elements of one and putting them into another. Like Railroads Online, but you have real landscapes to work with, or things beyond 3 foot. Um,
Hmm.
Open rails, but you have the ability to walk around. Things like that. I welcome. I welcome the new wave of Sims and being able to see what they could do to take us further into this world of immersion, especially where we're trying to replicate things that no longer exist.
Yeah, and I look forward to seeing where people are able to take Sims and connecting with their local museums or their local rail fan community and what they can grow out of that. Because I think we're in the prime time for that.
It's really exciting, and hopefully some more games continue to come around. I mean, everyone's been paying attention to Railroader, you two, more so
Mhm.
than the rest of us. But you know, there's so much exciting technology on the horizon, and like game development has been like with the rise of stuff like Unreal Engine and Unity getting more
Mhm.
accessible. I mean, it's only more and more accessible. So, you know, hopefully good things are coming. Oh, look at that giant train! Look at
Oh
that big
yes,
scary
giant
train
I
that
train.
just
just had a
showed
broad
up.
gauge train come in.
Look at that. You know, it's only more and more accessible, and there's more and more people that know things about computer science and whatever. So, I'm hopeful that lots of cool stuff will be coming. That you know maybe scratches more of the itches and starts to get that overlap of some of the features, you know, and maybe isn't just so much pigeonholed into one neat feature or something like that. But you know, who knows what the future may hold.
I would encourage those of you who are joining us tonight, if you've never considered learning route building in any of the simulators or 3D modeling, give it a try, especially because in a lot of cases with 3D modeling, pick up Blender. Blender is a free piece of software, and you can. There's all sorts of good tutorials out there about how to create objects. Once you know how to create basic objects, then you can start to create the things you want to make, and that is a great way. It's a great tool. To have, not just for the sake of train simming and being able to recreate these worlds, but even from a preservation standpoint. Another friend of mine who is involved with a restoration project, and he drew up a passenger car in CAD.
Hmm.
So it's very much worthwhile to learn these skills because it's not just about the playtime like we did tonight, which is fun,
Yeah.
but that there are there are plenty of other benefits that you would never otherwise expect, um, that could come out of being able to know how to 3D model or even just how to build a virtual route. I actually once used Train Z to create a digital mock-up of what a caboose would look like in a park for a legitimate proposal
Hmm.
of moving a caboose to a park. So there are good reasons.
That is very cool. Shameless plug. If you like talking about this stuff, train handling, steam engines, diesels, preservation, we do a lot of that in the VRA Discord. It's hit or miss some days, but you should definitely check it out and join. We talk about different. One thing that a short line that I used to work for, where we do rule of the day, and the dispatcher would give you a fun new rule out of the rule book as a way of keeping you learning. So we do that in my Discord, and we talk about all of these kinds of things. So if you're interested in that, please join. I My game just told me to depart, but there's a train in the way. Um, so check out the VRA Discord for more of that kind of stuff. The link is in the link tree, which is in the bio for the account, either here or on the YouTubes.
And
Shameless
of
plug.
course, yes. And of course, we want to thank the one, the only, the Hyce for
Professor
joining us
Hyce.
here tonight for
Of course.
this excellent time when reminiscing, looking at train swimming, past, present, and future, along with a host of other subjects.
Always a big amount of fun. I'm a sucker for nostalgia, so this was a lot of fun, and always getting to talk trains with you guys is a great time. So thanks for having me on.
Yeah, it was great having you on tonight, as always, and we look forward to the next time we can do something fun together. For everyone out there watching, thank you so much for joining us this evening. This was the Virtual Railroader Academy Video Games as Preservation 111.
And that link, if you're looking for the VRA Discord, that is exclamation mark Discord.
No, that's broken for some reason. Yeah, let me drop the
Well,
link
we'll
tree
make
really
sure.
quick.
Yeah, we'll drop the link tree for y'all. Link tree, link tree for all, so you can join the classroom discussion outside of our regular seminars.
Have a good night, everyone, and hopefully we'll see you again really soon.
Take care.
Bye.